Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Mondo Street's What's in the Box.
Hi, we're your presenters. I'm Fat Fincher, and the gentleman opposite me is Benjamin's Button. So, as we as we said, this is a series of podcasts discussing the films of David Fincher. So, as Mr. Fincher has made 12 films, there will be, unsurprisingly, how many? Benjamin's Button?
7?
Oh, done, yeah.
See what I did there.
We've already started. So we've decided to go through them chronologically. So the first one for our sins and for your sins, and if you've not seen this film, we're about to save you, depending on the cut you watch, 150 or 220. We're going to do Alien 3 first, and initial reactions.
I want my life of that time back, handed to me on a silver platter by the criminals who made that cinematic turd.
Oh, it really is. It's a funny thing because you look at Alien and then
it really wasn't. It really wasn't a funny thing.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. But if you look at Alien and Aliens, and you can argue that Alien is one of the greatest stalker stroke slasher films ever made, and then Aliens is a great war movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they said in Alien, nobody can hear you in space. Nobody can hear you scream. With Alien 3, it was like nobody can hear you say, "Oh fuck, have I got to watch this all the way through?" Because it was
as I repeatedly text you as I was watching it.
It was really, really hard work.
I mean, half an hour in, and I checked the timer. I was like, "Oh, good Lord, we're only half an hour in. It feels like it's been over an hour."
Yeah,
there's no pace to it, and when there is pace, it's so badly done that it feels like you've had a shot of adrenaline, you've gone through it, and then you're out the other side crashing and burning.
Yeah. It's funny because there are no. I think there's maybe one or two very, very, very short snippets which give you a view of what Fincher does, but apart from that, there's nothing which resembles anything of Fincher's work past that point. And even like there's way too much lens flare in the film. Every time there's some kind of point of light, it's got lens flare around it, and that's not typically Fincher. That's more J.J. Abrams or somebody like that. But this is definitely a film that was being made by committee, ignoring the director.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because that's always been the story from after it was released. And going back to your point about there are elements of Fincher in there. There are, I would say you're right, a couple of points where I was watching it, I went, that is shot by shot exactly what he did in 7.
Yeah.
And I think that, jumping to the next film slightly, that's where the comparison is. I don't think anything beyond that really is much like what he was doing, the shots in Alien 3. And you can see that, he's probably been allowed that bit. Oh, now we've cut away to where a producer or Sigourney Weaver has gone, no, I want it done like this. To echo the point you're saying of committee, yes, because every set piece it feels like a vanity project of somebody's.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of it that I felt was a vanity project was Sigourney Weaver at the end. There will be spoilers, and if you're listening to this, hopefully you've watched the film, or if you haven't, we're going to say it anyway because we're going to spare you 2.5 hours of your life. Is the part at the end where she gets up onto the side, puts her arms out at a cross, and falls backwards. That just seemed to go on forever.
It did,
unnecessary. And then when she fell into the fire, it was the worst CGI or whatever it was that I've ever seen. Apart from the alien itself, when that was CGI'd, which just looked like something out of a computer game. There was no cohesive storytelling or filmmaking within that film.
Yeah, when she fell into the flames, I half expected her thumb to come up. Well,
Peace.
yeah, because I remember seeing it in the cinema when it came out, and I was like, I was completely deflated by it because you had the highs of Alien and Aliens, and you think, well, surely they can't screw this up. It was almost like a no-brainer, wasn't it? It's like a Mission Impossible film or a James Bond film. There's never been a truly bad one. There's been some that haven't been quite as good, but there's never been one where people have gone, Jesus Christ, time to end the franchise.
Well, that killed it. That's why it went away for so long till they did Resurrection.
And quite rightly so as well. I think the thing that interests me is that I had some awareness of Fincher at that time because he did countless, and I mean countless, music videos at that stage. You know, Madonna, George Michael, you name it. He did them all, and some of them are quite, oh, right. I don't see Trent Reznor in that video, but you know, Paula Abdul video, you're thinking, hey, I don't see Fincher lining up there. So I had some awareness of him, and I think I had some expectation, but I think the biggest problem is that it was shot here. It was shot in Elstree. Yeah. Now, if I remember rightly, so was Aliens and Alien. But I think it was very obvious to me that they'd started off building the sets for one version of the script, and then they'd suddenly gone whoop like that and got, well, how are we going to reuse these sets? You know, because
because that was a point. Because I apologise. I was messaging you as I was in the torture chamber watching it.
yeah.
But I messaged you at one point. I went, even the scenery is bad. There's one point where they open metal cargo doors and one gets stuck and goes because it's wooden. And or MDF, and it's just not pulling through. So it does not a slip. You can hear. You can always imagine someone on the other side going.
It's a crazy thing because if you think 1992 or 91 when it was being filmed, the budget was close to $50 million. That's a heck of a lot of money. Okay, 5 million went to Sigourney Weaver, but that's a heck of a lot of money to spend on a film where the rest of the cast aren't exactly Hollywood legends. Would be commanding, you know, they might be commanding £40,000 or £50,000 for the film. So where did the rest of the money go?
That's why Hollywood hires British actors, is because we're cheaper than Americans.
Yeah,
and that there's what, two or three? No, 3 or 4 American.
Well, it's Lance Henriksen, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
And
Charles S. Dutton.
Yeah, Charles S. Dutton. Yeah, he's American. Yeah, and some might argue the alien was American as well. Yeah, because he hadn't been through passport control. He was an illegal alien. It's okay. That's better than any of the jokes in the film. That's enough for you looking at me like that. Oh. Yeah, so I
that joke was brought to you by the Trump administration.
No, that joke was brought to you by our feelings on Alien 3. I just wonder where the money went, because there's rumor has it, you know, if you do your digging up on this film, is that a lot of the exterior shots, the foreground buildings which were cast in silhouettes were just cardboard cutouts that were just put in the front of the shot, and you just think to yourself, how, where did the money go? Because, you know, if you look at the props are piss poor all the way through it. You know, it's almost as if they've gone down to Home and Bargain or the 1992 equivalent and gone, if we paint that black, it looks like a ray gun. If we paint that purple, it looks like an alien's tongue. And you just think to yourself, how did they get away with it? You know, it's definitely this Hollywood going, we want another mega hit. We want another great film, but we don't know how we're going to do it. And I think, you know, all kudos to Fincher that he got a film released. It's a bad film, but the fact that he still managed to wrangle a film out of the crap that it was, its component parts were crap. You know, for me, you know, they couldn't even get shot of the older script version, because I think it was Walter Hill.
Yeah, it went through a number of rewrites, a number of the revolving door of of script rights. The revolving door producer, it just went through so many that it's one of those films that got stuck in production loop.
Mm.
production hell, and the end result shows that.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're going to start dicking around with having lots of different people trying to resurrect something that wasn't there in the first place, you're going to
yeah,
end up with
yeah,
subpar filmmaking.
yeah.
And
'Cause I think,
Fincher basically was handed a turd,
oh, he
and I'm
was,
full of shit.
yeah, and yeah, I think one of the original versions of the script had it as a wooden planet, and they were actually priests, and part of that carried over because at the beginning of the film, when Sigourney Weaver is first found, there is an almost monastery feel about it, or a monastic feel about it.
Well, Dutton's character is a priest, basically, isn't he? Because he's
Yeah,
leading with prayer.
yeah,
He got this authoritative figure.
yeah,
Um, the prisoners see in him that they see him as the real leader, not the prison warden.
yeah.
So yeah, you're right. There is an element of that sticking throughout it.
Which would have been far more interesting than a penal colony with a load of dodgy accented British actors. You know, the one that kills me every time I watch it, and it does it for me within seconds of the film started, is Brian Glover as the prison warder. Now, Brian Glover has got the thickest Yorkshire accent. I think he actually did Tetley tea adverts at one point.
Mm.
You know, and
Well,
he's now he ends up with this really, really bad BBC newsreader voice. You know, I'm telling you, you will not have an alien in my prison.
there is a little bit of Pete Postlethwaite there as well, because
Yeah,
he to me is he can either be fantastic or he can be the death knell for a film,
definitely,
unfortunately.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
but the one that got me is Ralph Brown, because
Oh, yeah.
whenever I see him, all I want to do
Is
is
the that
yeah, he's from with Nell and also Wayne's World too.
wins well
Remember
too?
to fart in short, sharp bursts because
Yeah.
these babies tend to heat up. I cannot hear him or see him in
Yeah,
any other light.
yeah.
I'll tell you what
It's
I had to do to the prison warden. I had to beat him to death with his own shoes.
yeah. Now I don't know if you noticed, hanging around the back on a couple of the scenes was Holt McCallany, who went on to do Fight Club and Mindhunter with Fincher.
Ah, I
Yeah, so,
missed that.
yeah, he's very, very young. It's yeah, you look at him, you go, is that him? And you have
Mm,
to take a few seconds to check. Um, but it's funny that he's there in the background of that film. Maybe they formed some kind of connection, or maybe it was just a fluke that he then got other films with him. But
mm.
yeah, it's a
Well,
it's
go back to the cast. Is I couldn't pick out Paul McGann. Um,
no,
And also, Clive Mantle, I think, was a weird casting because he's more of a your ITV kind of drama actor.
oh yeah, wasn't he in
And of
ER for
course,
years? Not ER,
yes, he was
Holby
at
City,
Holby
or
City. He was in
yeah,
Holby City, and he
yeah.
was also in Robin Hood.
Did he play Little John
Robin of
by any
Sher-
chance? Yeah,
Robin of Sherwood. Yes, he
yeah,
did.
yeah. What's right? And Phil Davis, who was in Quadrophenia. You know,
Yes.
you think to yourself, it's the problem of making a film here is that you're pulling from a pool of actors here,
Mm,
and good actors get used all of the time. You know, I think if
mm.
they were making it here now, I think the acting pool is somewhat larger now, and I think that the acting rates have settled between. So it's not necessarily cheaper to hire actors over here than it is over
Mm.
there. But
But
the cast was bloody awful.
well, Charles Dance was a straight because again, he's another one who can either be really good or really pants. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I think he plays one type of character. I mean, you look at him in more recently Game of Thrones. I mean, he just has one set acting
Yeah.
gig basically, and I don't think he's diverse enough. But he has a gravitas, which is great. That's what
That
you
was
need, and
that
that
was the word I was going to use. I was going to use that if you need a character or an actor with gravitas, then you would bring somebody like Charles Dance in, and that's obviously what they did. They went
mm,
right. We need like a Charles Dance type actor.
mm.
why don't we just get Charles Dance? Oh, let's get Charles Dance then. That's the kind of thing that happened there. But I think the rest of the cast, the fact that they were so lazy that they killed Newt and Hicks off at the beginning of the film or before the film even started. The emotional center of why Ripley had become so tough, why Ripley had become so determined, that they just took those away and then expected Ripley to fight for some prisoners.
Yeah. Well, no, in essence, I mean, we sort of jumped into this without giving the synopsis, which is that her pod comes and crash lands on this prison planet, basically.
Yeah.
For a prison planet, there's not very many prisoners on it.
And it's a strange thing as well that for a prison planet, you would expect them all to be really, really, really bad prisoners. Yeah. But there's no weapons on there for the staff to control the prisoners.
I know.
All there seems to be in the centre is this big iron ore smelting facility.
Yeah. And that in a nutshell, listeners, is the story, really. But Sigourney's Weaver character is found to be...
Was that Sigourney's Weaver?
Sigourney's Weaver follows her everywhere. She's always on set with her, creating a lovely weave.
Yeah.
Because throughout that film, at the end of the film, she was shaved, so she needed a weave. So Sigourney's Weaver,
Sorry, her head was shaved.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Anyway. But she's found to be Sigourney Weaver, not Sigourney's Weaver. But Sigourney Weaver is found to be with child. Said child is an alien. An alien is in with beside her. So she is obviously the queen of the aliens because they don't touch her. But that's the synopsis, and 2.5 hours is dragged out from that of absolute pointlessness. And an alien comes through on the ship and wreaks havoc. But
that is one of the moments in the film, which is Fincher. So you've got she's in the medical bay,
scanning pod.
No, the medical bay.
Before that bit.
Yeah, and Charles Dance is attacked by the alien. Yeah, and you can tell it's a Fincher shot because the alien comes right up to her.
Yeah.
And that's where it senses that she's with Alien. And that is, for me, a mirror of the shot from Seven, where John Doe is incapacitated. Detective Mills, he's lying on the floor and he puts the gun to him and he goes, nah, and just buggers off. That shot of the alien coming up to Sigourney Weaver was not sanctioned by the studio. David Fincher so desperately wanted to do it that he got all the people he needed to one side and said, quick, let's go and do it. And they went and shot it, kind of like guerrilla style-y. And then the studio went, oh, yes, it can go in the film then. And you think to yourself, the whole point about a film which has got the word alien in it, in this franchise, is about tension. It is about threat and malice. It's about, am I going to get eaten? Oh, I'm not going to get eaten. How am I going to survive this? And this whole, all the way through Alien 3, the characters are so paper thin that you don't give a shit who's going to get killed next. The only thing you're interested in is if the kill's going to be is going to be a good, inventive kill. And they're not.
No, they are horror farce. By that, I mean, there's just so much blood on some of them that you think, well, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's like they popped a head and everything flies out. It just didn't gel at all. That like you say with Alien, that is a slasher movie in space, and there's the suspense and everything. I think they were trying to go for some of that with Alien 3, but it just didn't land. They had the war movie element in Aliens 2, which again had the balls out macho
game over, man.
Yeah, it had all that, and it's just great schloppy fun.
Oh, totally.
But Alien 3 was trying to find its own identity whilst pulling some of Alien and Alien's premise. And what it ended up with was dull. 2 hours, 20 minutes of dull. Because when the kills happen, they're over quickly, and then you're into characters that you're right, you don't care about.
No,
There's nothing about them. They're 2D characters.
no,
They're not even that, they're 1D characters.
yeah,
And there's just nothing there for you to be invested in. I wasn't even invested in Sigourney's Weaver
no.
while she was off screen doing her thing. But no, she was bad in that film. Absolutely terrible. Hammy acting, over egging it. And again, I didn't care. I wasn't invested in her at all.
No.
The only character I probably got invested in was Charles Dance's character. And then he's gone. And then you're like, okay, there is absolutely no point in this then. There was so much more that could have happened between his character and Sigourney Weaver's character.
It's funny because if you look at Sigourney Weaver at the end of Alien, where she is forced to become a survivor, and then at the end of Aliens, where she has grown to be a survivor, but also a mother and a lover, they pull the rug underneath her. They take all of those interesting elements away from her and make her as bad as all the other characters. There's nobody in this film to root for apart from the alien.
Yeah, please kill them all.
Yeah, please kill them all. Please, could you bite this one's tongue off? Because I can't bloody stand this one. Yeah, and I sometimes look at, and this is a strange analogy, but sometimes you look at a car manufacturer and they bring out a new model of a car. The last year's model was a turd on wheels. It's a really boring looking car, and it's really like, doesn't do anything. It's a drab and boring shape. But the new one they bring out is fantastic. You think, is this the same manufacturer? And this is what Fincher did here. We watch Alien 3 and then you watch any of his other films, they are light years ahead. There is, if you showed somebody Alien 3 and The Game, for example, there's no way somebody would say it's the same director.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. He was given the keys to an amazing franchise, but little did he know those keys were the keys to his handcuffs.
Yeah.
Because he was completely tied by studios, studio producers, and anyone else that had to put out what they thought was the film the public wanted.
Yeah.
And because he was new as a film director, yes, he'd done loads of music videos, and that was sort of the breeding ground for many directors was music videos at the time. Yeah. So he'd done plenty of those. So he knew his stuff, done the groundwork. They took a chance. It didn't pay off. He got the blame for it. It sincerely wasn't his fault. And unfortunately, it's that blemish on the CV that is otherwise amazing. That there are a couple of missteps which we'll go into as this series of podcasts it goes on. Yeah. But as a canon of work, he has done some fantastic movies.
Yeah. Can I just clarify then that what's the name of this film? Is it Alien 3 or Alien Cubed? Because where they put the 3, it would signify cubed.
Yeah.
And even the tagline's hilarious for this film. 3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror.
None of the above.
But what kind of marketing dipshit goes, let's call it that? I sometimes I sat down knowing it was is it the worst Alien film? Ooh, come back to that. Hold that thought if it's the worst Alien film or not. But I came here watching this again thinking this is definitely the worst David Fincher film.
Oh, gosh, yes, but
I think I'm willing to give him a pass on this. I'm willing to say this isn't a David Fincher film.
I would completely agree with you. Going back to names, I think it should be Alien 3 or Alien Prison Break because it's just nonsensical shite. It shouldn't
maybe it
should
Alien
be an Alien film.
It should be called Alien Final Destination. Because all it is a series of kills.
Mm,
They shoehorn canon into it. Like
mm.
the Lance Henriksen turning up at the end with the Wayland Jennings army
Oh,
to confiscate. Now he was really good as Bishop in Aliens, really, really good as Bishop. But he's just reduced to this
yeah.
crappy, goofy corporate ding dong, and then you get
I'm
all
the
these
scientist.
yeah, but then you get all these ding dongs in the army suits who I guarantee are the British actors that have already been killed just to save a few quid. Paul
Probably.
McGann, throw a stormtrooper outfit on. It was just crap. And
They didn't need to. They didn't need to explain that he based the android on his own self. They did not need to have that bit.
well,
That I think that was completely redundant to that end bit. They didn't need him to come down. Why is he coming down? None of it makes
yeah.
solid sense. That last bit. It was a bit. Let's throw this in, and the audience would go.
What?
No,
Why
the
would you?
audience would just go.
Yeah.
Oh, make it end.
Why would the boss of bosses go to a planet where there's
Yeah,
a dangerous xenomorph killing everybody it sees?
flanked by 2 stormtroopers, and
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. And this thing's got acid for blood and a willy for a
Yeah.
mouth. He's got all these things, and he's just
Good
going,
lord, if yours looks like that, you need to see a
"Yeah,
doctor, mate.
I'm taking the check." That's all he
Yeah.
did. Check, please. Thank you.
Well, considering Sigourney Weaver is a producer on it, I would love to know what her residuals from that film are because it can't be a lot.
No, I think the only thing, and we talked about this briefly, that how did David Fincher get 7 after this? I think it was, is it Arnold Copelson, who is the producer of this, felt so bad that he actually wanted to give Fincher a helping hand. That Sigourney Weaver continually, in all the press junkets, supported Fincher, saying how much interference there'd been. So, I think we, as much as we should feel unhappy at Sigourney Weaver for taking the check which enabled this film to be made, we should be thankful that she did kind of like have his back at the
Yeah,
appropriate
there is
time.
that. I think a lot of those in the process were supportive of Fincher, but a studio to save its own bacon and the powers that be to save their own jobs will, of course, throw him under the bus.
Yeah, it's funny because from the box office point of view, it was actually quite a good hit for that year. They had its global box office was 155 million on a 50 million budget.
But that's because you've got the fans from the previous two who
Yeah,
parted with their money to go to the cinema to see this. I'd love
yeah.
to see what had the numbers of those that walked out about halfway through. Because
Well,
if you look at the ratings, it's got 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.4 on IMDb.
yeah,
I would say that's even, it's still too much.
yeah, and it was nowhere near as successful as Aliens. $18 million budget. Aliens, $18 million. So you get Aliens for $18 million, and you get Alien 3 for $50 million. But Aliens made 133 globally. So adjusted for inflation or whatever jiggery pokery they do in the years between, Aliens was far more financially successful. That was the drive, but they just slaughtered it. They just
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm trying to think of a part in the film that made me feel that I was in the Alien universe. It seems a strange thing to say that.
No,
If you,
that's a very good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't. When you take into fact resurrection afterwards, it doesn't fit at all.
no,
It's
no,
it's like a it's like Disney Plus taking it and making Andor or something. It's like they did a spin-off.
well, there is an Alien TV show coming.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. They did,
Yeah. The thing is that they can't write anything new anymore, can they? They haven't got the intelligence or the skill to write anything original anymore.
I think we need to do an entire podcast episode about that. Side note for this, because I'm having the same issue of franchise fatigue.
Well, yeah, and I think that maybe we should have an enforced limit on the number of films you can make in a franchise, and
Yeah.
maybe when it comes to space aliens, it should be two.
Yeah. Two, it's the new magic number.
Yeah, because Ridley Scott had got it right when he went back into the universe and did Prometheus. He didn't call it
Mm.
Alien Prometheus or Prometheus Alien.
Mm.
It was obviously in the universe and it was obviously canon, but he gave it a different name to separate it from it.
Yeah, they could have Alien Origins, something like that, because
Yeah,
that's a top one, isn't it, these days? Oh yeah,
yeah.
we're going for an origin movie. I don't.
I'm sure that was banded around. So, what is the worst Alien film of all time? Then it goes away a little bit from David Fincher because he's only responsible for this one.
I think Resurrection was better than this one. Alien 3 for me. This
Whew.
yeah. I remember seeing Resurrection in the cinema, and there were elements of that I thought were pretty good.
Yeah,
It wasn't a great film by any stretch of the imagination. Oh,
no,
look, they can swim now. Woo! It took a bit too much creative license with
yeah,
Alien franchise,
yeah.
but I definitely think three. I just it's some of the camera shots I'm playing through in my head now. You're just thinking, oh my god, yeah, I know it was the 90s, but come on, swoop in, go down the tunnel and turn upside down. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that was
it's awful.
that was the pop
And
director, wasn't it? And it was also
yeah,
it's 10 years after the Evil Dead. It's less than 10 years, so it's 10 years after the Evil Dead, where Sam Raimi had gone. How do I get this levitating look? So
mm,
I strap a camcorder to a board, and two of us walk down with a board. But it's definitely the pop video mentality bled
there is
all over this.
loads of it. You're right with the close in. There's another close in shot with the chaplain guy and another prisoner. I forget who it was at the time, but they did that close face to face, and the camera was set
Yeah,
in. Fincher
yeah,
shot. Those are the two Fincher shots. The one you mentioned, that one.
yeah.
But apart from that, I I wonder if studio execs were going, we want you to do pop video. We want you to do what you're doing for MTV. We want the MTV look to this film because MTV sells, early 90s, it would have done.
Yeah,
That kind of aesthetic.
yeah,
But I still stand by that Alien 3 is the worst of the lot.
right.
Resurrection still wasn't great, but it wasn't Alien 3 because
Yeah.
it's its own entity. I don't think it should be an Alien film per se. I think it should be a forgotten chapter in the Alien franchise.
I think it's interesting that you say that do MTV because MTV sells. I'm just really surprised that there wasn't a theme tune for it as well. You know, like
Sing the tunes,
you
sing
like
the tune
Gold
tune.
Eye, you like Golden Eye and Diamonds Are Forever, and you get all that, don't you? If they were trying
Mm.
to make an MTV franchise episode, shouldn't somebody
Yeah.
shouldn't somebody have released it? And you could just have these swooping shots of the alien chasing people down to Madonna going, "It's an alien."
No. Aliens are in the prison, the prison, the
Yeah,
prison.
but that would have been the logical step, wouldn't it? If they wanted that
Yeah.
whole wraparound, why didn't they release a single? You could see the
Why didn't
alien
they have the
turning up
big?
at the MTV Music Awards to present Best Newcomer and then popping it in the head. Thump! And then we could have been saved 30 more years of Madonna's career. Madonna Wang!
No, they
Yeah,
would have got someone like it would have been like a Nine Inch Nails or Metallica or someone like that would have done the theme tune to that.
no, I don't think they would have. I think they would have gone for something which would have had the potential if the film had caught the public eye to be a big single. Now, Nine Inch Nails and Metallica are never going to have a big mainstream hit. They're not. They'll have big hits within their respective fields, but you wanted somebody like who was big in the 90s? NSYNC or somebody like that.
Well, if
Yeah.
you're looking at early 90s, you're talking grunge. So imagine Pearl Jam knocking
No,
out, knocking out.
Pearl Jam over the intro, but you needed somebody poppy.
Oh, alien.
Alien spoken with his
Yeah.
double head today. But you need somebody with somebody more poppy, sweeping out like a love ballad. Celine Dion.
No. Aha.
Oh, that's it. That's it. No, Celine Dion starts singing as Ripley starts falling backwards into her Christ pose.
near, far, you're into a smelting pot.
You're going to burn your bra. I think that was the thing that was missing. You know, if you're going to go for the pop director and you're going to go for that pop, the pop video mentality with the cuts and the lighting and that, go the whole hog. Get some singers on board as well, and even have a cameo. They could have had
Oh,
somebody
good
like
Lord.
Rodney Dangerfield popping up as a prisoner. Hey.
Actually, that's another good point. There's not that sort of known celebrity cameo, which is always a trope at that sort of time, of someone big and known coming in as just that. Oh my god, it's so and so.
Yeah.
Oh look, there's Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, but I don't think there wasn't in the first two Alien films either.
No, but if we're going full hog,
Well, if you got going full hog, maybe it's
Yeah.
Bill Murray. It's Bill Murray or Ghostbusters. Sorry, wrong film. Did somebody call us? Oh shit, it's an alien. Wrong film.
if an alien's free in your prison yard, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Oh no, hang on.
Hang on. No, sorry, love. We don't do aliens. We do ghosts. This one looks a little bit scary. Back out the room.
Yeah.
Slowly, guys. Don't look at it in the eyes. Back out the room.
Their spaceship comes in landing going.
And the aliens there feasting on Rick Moranis.
There is no Zool.
Yeah, I think maybe. I wonder who it would have been. Who would have been the 90s hero at that point?
Schwarzenegger. I have come to feel your alien.
Well, you say that, but then they actually did it, didn't they? They did Alien versus Predator.
Yep.
Yeah. Which
Get
was
chopper.
Yeah, get off my chopper. Yeah. So back to Mr. Fincher anyway. So a huge misstep for him, but it was something that got his foot on the ladder, which enabled him to make 11 infinitely better films, even his lesser loved works, which I can't think of one because I'm such a Fincher geek. Are infinitely better than this. This film is a extraterrestrial's turd.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's alien poop.
It is alien poop, and I think unfortunately that it then cast a stain in the underwear of every single film that followed that was called Alien. Yeah. How many were there after that? So
It's just Resurrection.
Alien 3 Resurrection.
And that was it.
And then it was a massive gap until Prometheus. And then Alien Covenant.
Did you notice there are elements in the score as well that just had Fincher written all over it? It wasn't his usual collaborators. I mean, Howard Shore, etc. There are others, but I think Fincher has a style that he likes to go with his shots, which is very prevalent in Panic Room and Seven, with this boom, boom, low bass, long drawn out throbbing sustain that is there, and that is evident.
Was it that kind of film, really?
Yeah, I did not have throbbing sustain from Alien 3,
No.
but there's a definite style that's birthing there as well for the next Fincher film.
And it's funny if you think about the music for a second, think about the use of sound in Alien, which was all about, it's behind you, the hair on the back of your neck's going to go up. Think about the use of sound and music in Aliens. It was all gung-ho and fight them at the bridges. And then they go and get somebody whose previous films was Pet Sematary. Well, no, he was just a musician on the score. Oh God. Alien 3 was his first film where he did the score.
It wasn't a bad score. But
I can't remember it, so therefore it was.
No, there's there's no motifs or anything. It's very much a dirge soundtrack.
Yeah.
Whereas with Alien, you heard that. It had that. It had space. They had professionals. They had the best of the best do the first couple.
Yeah.
It feels like a studio knew it had a franchise that was gonna do well no matter what. They took a punt and took unknowns to helm the movie.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to what they had in their head, so they got so involved that they messed around with it and ruined some careers.
Here is a point. So this guy, the guy that did the score for it was Elliot Goldenthal. So his first stab at scoring a film was Alien 3.
Mm-hmm.
He then went on to kill another franchise with his music in Batman Forever. Yeah. But then, I don't know how he got this gig. Okay. You look at his CV, Alien 3, Batman Forever. He did Heat. You think to yourself, not overly memorable, but how the hell did he get the gig?
It might be that when you separate that art form from the rest of the art form, it wasn't that bad. It's not a bad score. He's scoring to the imagery, to the visuals. He's doing what a film scorist needs to do. It worked well in that moment. So I think when you separate that, like I say, separate that art form from the rest of the art form, it's good. So yeah, you can take that and put it something else. And if he's got a specific style, also rates are decent, then yeah, he's going to. It should be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that, because there are some major film scorists who have done music. Do you think, how the heck has he done that one? That is awful.
Film scorist, is that a real phrase?
Oh, it is with my lack of.
If you ever want to revisit this film, and you may never want to do that again,
no, I don't.
Or if somebody hasn't seen this film and is maybe feeling a little bit after what we've said about it, my recommendation is to watch the assembly cut. Okay. Fincher was asked to do a director's cut of it. He said, "You've already got the director's cut." Yeah. The theatrical release of the director's cut, I want nothing else to do with this film ever. And he gave permission to the guy who I think was his editor at the time to go in and add a lot of unused footage in. And there are a significant number of changes that change the way you perceive the characters. Not necessarily the action, but how you perceive the characters. That there is, I would say the assembly cut is the best of a very, very bad bunch. Yeah. I think like in the assembly cut, I don't think the alien bursts out of her chest as she's falling. She's falling into the fire.
Oh, then that's the version I watched last night.
Right. Okay.
It was still crap.
Hey! I would actually watch it over any other version. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the version I watched then, because I've got it off Apple and it has different versions with it. You buy it and you get all the versions. So that I thought, I'm not going for the original cinematic because I've already watched that and I know how bad it is. Let's watch that one. So yeah, that's the version I watched. 2 hours, 20 something minutes, and dear Lord.
Yeah.
Pants.
Long-winded, dude. Right, okay. So, one final question, one final point before we leave our dear listener. You've watched the film. At the end of the film, which character did you identify with the most?
Yeah, we spoke about this briefly before we started this. I have no idea. I can't, because the film was that bad.
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot.
Okay, well, mine is, because I've had man flu for 4 days, I feel like the dog at the beginning where the alien burst out of his chest. So I'm going to take that as my I identify with. So I'm a Rottweiler, I think it was. I'm a Rottweiler with a hole in my chest from an alien leaving me.
Yeah, I'm one of those big cows then that gets dragged back and opened up and slaughtered.
Oh, the oxen.
That's it, the oxen.
How do you get oxen from Earth to a space prison?
God knows. God knows. I mean, were they even oxen, or were they? I don't know. It's amazing that they found this planet that
Was it like space?
enables life.
It was Space Slickers, wasn't it? It was Billy Crystal driving the herd.
Space Slickers.
Yeehaw! Right, well, thank you very much, my dear Benjamin's Button. I think the next episode, if we go chronologically, is...
Sounds like a micro penis.
I know. The next film, if we go chronologically, is my favourite Fincher film of all time, which is Seven.
I mean, yeah, can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I think it's one of those films where watch it before we talk about it. Really? That'll be like the 500th time I've watched it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same, but I'm looking forward to that one. Detective.
If... Right. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, if you can't sleep, don't bother watching Alien 3 because it will just keep you awake. Goodbye.
Thanks, listeners.